Power up. Welcome to Energypreneurs, where I bring to you the exciting new opportunities in solar power, battery, and electric cars. I'm your host, Sohel Hasni. I've been tracking and analyzing these technologies on LinkedIn and Twitter for more than 10 years. Now we meet on podcast. Okay, Sherwin, welcome to Energypreneurs. You have been one of the most popular person that I get asked about the topic ADB Ventures. So maybe you can say a few words about who you are, and then let's get into venturing into ADB Ventures.
Sure. Just about myself, I'm Sherwin, and I'm heading the business development team of ADB's private sector operations. And I started the preparation of ADB Ventures since 2018. Actually, we brought the initiative to a long way, and currently ADB Ventures is up and running with one early stage venture capital fund and relatively large technical assistance. The platform was approved by ADB's board in January 2020, and we closed our first fund in September 2020. Now we have 3 investments in portfolio, and hopefully by the end of June, we should have 6 in total. And we have some, it's not really investment, but this we call seeds. Currently, we have done about 9 seeds. They are very active early stage startup support facility, and hopefully eventually it will yield some investment opportunities for us. Also, at the same time, we have a program called ADB Ventures Lab. That's the regional support, support to the acceleration programs in the Asia Pacific. It helps us to connect to the ecosystems in various corners in our region, and eventually help us to know our customer, help us to source the deals. Yeah, this is just like a snapshot about ADB Ventures and about what I'm leading. Actually, we see that the ecosystem is very big, and so we are trying to fill the gap as much as we can. We are trying to raise our second fund, which is a debt fund, will be much bigger and help to cover relatively late stage startups, let's say Series B beyond. That fund is expected to be up and running in, let's say, around mid-2022.
Okay, so generalist perspective, what is ADB trying to achieve here with this venture fund, and how large is the fund?
I would say that probably 3 aspects. One is that we are ADB. I would say that we try to deliver the impacts to our region. So overall, ADB Ventures help us to fill the gap that ADB has been missing for quite a long time. As you know, that ADB hasn't really supported any, I would say that any startups before ADB Ventures, no matter through any direct or indirect instrument. But as you know, that technology startups are delivering a lot of impacts in our DMCs. So to a certain extent, we see that this is the gap has been missing in ADB's operations for a long time. Now ADB Ventures fill the gap. So this is the first aspect. The second one is that in terms of, let's say, ADB's own expertise, we are pretty good to adapt, let's say, the technologies. But at the same time, ADB is hasn't really looked at the expertise to support I would say that the supply side of the technology. Of course, if you talk about technology adoption, of course you can understand the technology like demand side very well. But as an MDB, to a certain extent, I think we need to take care of like both supply and demand side, and we need to have expertise, know how to assess the technology demand and supply side at the same time. So this is the second aspect, try to help ADB to, let's say, let's call perfect its knowledge base or perfect its expertise. The third one is really like, they're in ADB's private sector operations. A lot of times our clients are complaining that we are quite slow. But as you know, that to try to change the process or the procedures of any institution's mainstream operation is extremely risky and I would say that difficult. So from our perspective, we just want to be, let's say, a guinea pig of ADB, try different new process, try to be innovative in our operations, and eventually help the bank to, I would say that, to improve, to be innovative. And our lessons learned, our experience will feed into the mainstream operations of ADB and eventually help ADB's mainstream operation, particularly on the private sector operation side, to be more efficient.
So you are trying to do, let me understand, trying to do a ring-fenced operation, which is going to address a market gap, which is we never supported the startups because there is a minimum threshold and the transaction cost. So you're trying to carve out a niche to address the market because those people are making the maximum demand, right? Because we could not support them.
Okay. Or from another angle is that try to take on more risk, but those risks are calculated risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Oh, now I know why I get so many requests on LinkedIn asking about ADB Ventures. So you created a whole entire new world. So how much fund do you have and what's your vision? How much you want to grow? Do you have a target?
Yeah, actually currently, including both the VC fund and also the technical assistance, we have about 70 something million in total. 60 million on the VC fund side, while 12 point something million on the TA side in total. Then the ambition is that we have 10-year plan. Throughout these 10 years, we will try to expand through 3 stages. We are in the first stage. The second stage is that we'll cover more SDG goals. Mm-hmm. And try to expand to more regions. Currently, our main focus are South Asia and Southeast Asia. But in the stage 2, we will try to expand more Asia Pacific regions. And in stage 3, we will try to, this is our ultimate goal. I would say that in 10 years, we will try to catalyze about 1 billion risk capital into impact technology investment space. And on ADB Ventures own platform, we will try to mobilize about $500 million.
Okay. So these are fantastic targets. Now, will you just maybe explain a little bit what does the VC arm do, VC fund and the TA fund, how different and why they're different?
Okay, and the VC fund that we are running is a very early stage venture capital facility to support early stage technology startups. Mm-hmm. The early stage, in terms of its definitions, we are talking about a startup at about Series A stage. So these are the startups to raise institutional capital first time in the market. So to a certain extent, we are talking about probably, experienced, I would say that engineers or scientists, but they don't really have much, I would say that business experience or fundraising experience.
Mhm.
This is the first time for them to go to the market. So to a certain extent, ADB Ventures will help to play an honest broker role and help them to try to facilitate more funds into these startups. Uh, the technical assistance is helping us try to look into even earlier stage startups. For example, those companies just probably got a prototype, and they probably just finished the pilot testing, haven't really commercialized their solutions yet. So the TA and the VC funds are looking to different stage startups, particularly when we talk internally within the team. The idea is that the TA is supposed to take more risk, try to support some of the solutions. Actually, has a big possibility to fail. But I think this is something ADB Ventures should do. Otherwise, we wouldn't see some game-changing solutions to come to the market.
Okay, that's interesting. So basically, if a group of people just have an idea, have done a pilot, and haven't still sorted out how to go ahead and commercialize it, so ADB as an honest broker will bring sort of advisory services, which is the technical assistance then, right?
I would say that probably a little bit later than that. And typically, I would say that those people have already finished the lab work and have done some pilot testing. But at the same time, let's say they haven't really got or signed any large commercial contract yet. Maybe they have even a little bit of revenue, but which is just like kind of one-time revenue. It's not definitely the recurring revenue yet. From our perspective, we just try to support this kind of like a technology solutions. So to a certain extent, we were more focused on, let's say, the team and the potential market, and eventually try to help them to find a suitable customer. So this is the role that ADB can play, because as you know that we have very extensive network. If the customer, if the startup asks us which market should I go, let's say Pakistan or Bangladesh, and these sometimes are the question answers we can give to them, saying that, okay, based on ADB's understanding of this market, if it's a clean tech solution, we believe that probably Bangladesh is more suitable, or probably you have a better chance to scale up in those markets. So these are the roles we believe that ADB should play.
So in this context, customer meaning the end users, or customer meaning venture funds that will come and invest more?
In this case, our customers, ADB Ventures customer, is really those startups.
Okay.
But the role we are trying to do is to help our customer to find probably the first large customer to have the recurring
their
revenue.
Services.
That's right. For example, for a clean tech company, and let's say their potential customers are all utility players, and in this case, I would say that probably no one is better than ADB can introduce this startup to those utility companies. Probably ADB is the one know all of them in our region.
Oh, and then what's the typical size of these technical assistances? I saw somewhere $200,000 number. I saw somewhere.
Yes, it's up to 200K, but in most cases, I would say that we probably will provide 50K, 100K, because those are still very early stage startups. and to a certain extent, their capacity to absorb large amount of capital is also limited. So we need to give them the right size of capital and lead them to, let's say, a right market, and help them to connect to the right customer, and eventually, hopefully, to yield, let's say, a good result to help the startup to scale up.
Now, do you have a precondition for this team that if I'm going to give you $50,000, you must have at least spent $50,000 on your own money or something?
Yeah, and typically we say that of course the team needs to be credible, and for example, they need to have a solution, or like let's say an impact tech solutions that we can believe, and also the solutions we are looking at is that we are talking about, like, for almost every solution we're talking about like $1 billion market. So for example, if it's a solution just to try to deal with local community problem, this is not something probably ADB Venture will look into.
So you're looking at, what's your term was, bold technology startups, and that can potentially have $1 billion. So you want to.
So we are looking for global solutions, or if not, at least the solutions can benefit, let's say, several our DMCs. So to a certain extent, it's not something will only benefit like one town or one city, and we want potentially this technology can be scaled up.
So then, suppose you give $200,000 and they did well, and they can potentially be $1 billion and impacting multiple countries. So then the next stage is ADB will tap into the other pocket and can provide some VC fund, right?
Yeah, actually, typically when we provide this technical assistance, and we would also ask for an investment right in the startup's next round of financing. For example, typically these companies are really in the seed stage, and then I would say that we should have a right to invest in your company if the technical assistance we provide is successfully implemented, and you reach to your next round of financing. Typically, it's like a Series A or pre-Series A. Then we will say that typically ADB will have a right, or ADB Venture has a right to invest, I don't know, like up to 25% or 50% of the next round, or up to like $1 million also US dollars. So it helps us to a certain extent to have some upside by providing the technical assistance. So if the company scaled up, and it will provide some financial returns to ADBs through the next round of investment.
So in that case, so you want the right of first refusal, that when you're going for a pre-Series A or any amount, so ADB want to piggyback on those because we helped you.
That's right.
And the limit is you will go up to $1 million. So whatever percentage 1 million buys, or is that how to read it?
No, it depends. Like I would say, sometimes we ask for 1 million, sometimes ask for 2, sometimes we even ask for half. It depends on like how we see the opportunity, and what type of which sector this startup is in. As you know that, for example, like a agri-tech company typically scale up relatively slow, while fintech company typically scale up very fast. So we may ask a bigger amount in the fintech companies, but ask for a small stake in the, like a small investment right in the agri-tech company.
Yeah, and then what does this company gets in return? Basically, do you give a part that I will stay on for X months or this, or what's your exit plan? Do you agree, or it doesn't matter?
No, actually, because when we provide TA, actually we are really helping them when the company doesn't have support from the market. But what we are asking, the investment right, in any cases, if they reach the next round, they will get money from the investors. So let's say ADB's investment has no difference from the other people. But at the same time, we do carry a good reputation and we have extensive network in the region. So for them, I would say that all this like a value addition beyond the money we can provide.
Yeah, I mean, then ADB staff will also take a board position or a seat so to give advice, or not that formal?
Typically not in the TA stage, but in the like for our investment fund, depends on which percentage we are taking from the company. A lot of times we do nominate a director sitting in the company's board.
Fantastic. And then, of course, from there on, if the company really grows and they can come to our private sector group and ask for a loan or others, at what point will you then also facilitate this company to get access to next series, next round of funding?
This really depends. I would say that typically I would say that in most of the in a matured VC market or matured like a startup ecosystem, typically you see that the valuation of the company for each stage increased by 5 times. That's typically how they start to raise money. And for example, if we go into a company at the valuation, for example, 5 million, I would say that the next time we see that roughly the company probably is ready to go for the next round, I would say that the valuation of the company probably increased to 20 to 30 million US dollars, something like that.
So you have, you said $13 million for your venture fund. 60 million and 12.5 for a TA money. And you are giving $200,000. That's 60 projects. So how many projects you got so far? You have...
I would say that typically, for the investment fund, I would say the typical ticket size is like a 20 to it's a 2 to 3 million US dollars. That's the typical ticket size. But as you know that for an early stage VC fund, 50% of the money is earmarked for the follow-on investment.
So in terms of application, I guess the way it's laid out, it will be a continuous application process, right? You don't have a cutoff date as such, no? Or you do in batches?
No, actually, we just assess based on first come first serve. Just to continue, previously I said we have 60 million in the fund, so about 50% of money is earmarked for follow-on. So in terms of the investable capital for the first check we write to a startup, I would say that the average size is probably around 2 million. And so in total, we probably will do about 15 projects. And the rest of the money is really do the follow-on investment within these 15 or 20 companies. So hopefully, this 15 or 20 first checks will yield, I don't know, probably between I would say that 5 to 8 winners. And then we will write follow-on checks to these companies. And then there will be probably, the second follow-ons within this 5 to 8 companies. I would say that's probably another 3 or 4. But eventually we believe that the ultimate winners for us will be just 1 or 2 startups. We are talking about 1 or 2 winners after maybe hopefully 3 rounds of follow-ons, and maybe 1 or 2 in this kind of let's say returns help us to pay off the entire fund.
Yes. I mean, as you said, if it's $1 billion market potential and you pick up 1 or a half a winner, I mean, that will pay for everything. So do you have eventual plan to, once the business model is established, the whole thing even can go to the as a sort of ecosystem where the private sector takes over, no? And ADB can, or maybe
To
not.
be honest with you, no, to be honest with you, it's not like someone to take over ADB Ventures. I believe that ADB Ventures will become a permanent vehicle within ADB, and the role of ADB Ventures can continuously to play is a kind of demonstration role. Currently, actually, not many people believe that we can make money, or like at the early stage VC for impact technologies can make money. You can see that a lot of VCs invest in, for example, e-commerce, invest in fintech. But if you talk about any like a venture capital fund, specialized in, let's say, agri-tech, specialized in clean tech, not many, actually very few in the market. So we just want to demonstrate that actually, if you are patient enough, if you have a right portfolio construction, and eventually you should be able to make money from this kind of investment. Then after 10 years, after 20 years, when we bring more players in this space, what roles that ADB Ventures can play at that time, I would say that it probably would be decided by ADB's management at that time.
So coming to, no, thank you for that explanation. This is very exciting. On the supply side though,
yeah,
I interviewed Jacqueline out of Europe. She was in Manila and did a startup now. It sounds similar in a way, because what she's trying to do, create an ecosystem where a lot of startups are coming, and then she's basically on the supply side, breaking that into smaller chunks so that any retail investors can invest in a portfolio sort of approach. So she's in the private sector doing it. Of course, what you are doing is a public sector, so there's a lot of public goods element is there. But she's making a commercial product. But it's not, I won't say similar thinking, but it's quite interesting, trying to fix a similar part of the problem. But she's focused only on in Europe right now.
Yeah, I would say that in terms of startup ecosystem, it's very big, and potentially there are a lot of good things we can deliver from this ecosystem. Every region is different, so people need to think about like unique solutions for each region. Clearly, Asia Pacific has so many opportunities, so many potentials. We have the largest population among all the continents. So to a certain extent, we believe that there needs to be some unique solutions for the Asia Pacific ecosystem. So that's why, we try to learn from other people, like how to establish how to craft ADB Ventures. But at the same time, it's a kind of like a learning by doing, and every day we encounter new problems. So we just try to, adjust our strategy or adjust the way we do the work, and eventually try to optimize the way we handle the clients, the way we handle the investment. So yeah, actually every day there are some new things to learn.
How large is the team right now handling this?
Actually, currently we split the team into two, and one side is we call investment team. So the investment team was led by two seniors with 5-6 associates. So in total, about around 7-8 people, and the other side is we call technical assistance team. So they do provide some support to the investment team as well, but the technical assistant team has total maybe like also maybe around 7 to 8 people as well. They do I would say that more diversified tasks in terms of running ADB Venture Labs and do the some of the monitoring, do some of the development impact assessment, and also we also follow all ADB safeguards policy. So there are some safeguards people in the TA team as well.
So you just mentioned ADB Venture Lab.
Yeah.
You want to explain what is that?
Sure. Actually, this is an important component of ADB Ventures. As you know, Sohail, ADB, like venture capital business is a very local business. To a certain extent, you need to be underground, try to know your customer, and try to understand the local ecosystem. I would say that although most of the venture capital funds in Asia are regional funds, not national funds, except that China, India have some like the national VC funds. Most of the VC funds in this region actually are regional funds. The reason is that each ecosystem is still relatively small. So the VC funds need to pull all the markets together in order to generate economic skills. But for all of these regional funds, they still need to have presence or partners in the local market in order to understand the local ecosystem. So from our perspective, we sit in Manila and we are a small team. We cannot afford really to have people on the ground, like a one person in every market. And to a certain extent, we cannot really only focus on just a few markets because of mandate. We also need to balance our approach in the entire region. So that's why ADB Venture Lab is a kind of like a deal sourcing mechanism, and also help us to support the local ecosystem. So these are the programs that we partner with the regional or local accelerators. So, for example, Plug and Play or E27. So, with all these partners, we try to. Sometimes we provide funding. Sometimes we just provide, like in-kind support to participate in their existing programs to help us to source deals and also try to understand the market. Of course, for all these acceleration programs, typically they also need to, have partners eventually to, like investment partners, eventually to invest in their startup cohorts they source. So to a certain extent, it's a kind of win-win structure, and we can help them to eventually to found some of their startups, and they can help us to reach to the ecosystem that we are not familiar with or we don't have resources to cover. To a certain extent, we, like for example, we are trying to do several acceleration programs, a kind of tailor-made for ADB. For example, we have a sustainable tourism program, and we have a clean tech program in the region. And actually, recently we are trying to work on some like a smart construction. So all these kind of acceleration programs fit to our investment strategy, and also like try to I would say that to fit to ADB's mainstream operations as well.
So when you call venture labs, right? So this is a cluster, like a regional cluster with some local partners and accelerators.
Yes.
So that you get local knowledge, and they also get access to our regional projects and others, all being the part of the same thing. And right now you have 2-3 of them specific focus clusters, and these are
more than that. Actually, the examples I gave are just a few examples, but okay. In total, actually we have run like I would say that more than a dozen of acceleration programs already in the past 18 months, and we have at least 4 or 5 programs actually are in the middle of recruiting or in the middle of processing. So in total, I would say that this could be some existing programs. We do some light touch, or it could be something tailor made for ADB. We 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 do provide investment, like if some of the startups meet our criteria, but at the same time, we also help them to connect to, I would say that the clients, or connect to our network. For example, for the clean tech cohort, we can easily connect them to the utility companies, as I mentioned earlier, or if it's a kind of sustainable tourism program, actually we can help them to the regulators, help them to the government agencies. So all these are the strengths of ADB. Actually, the market will recognize that ADB's network is really valuable to them.
Yeah, then you walked into another idea. Then what about public sector? Because the regulation, the policy, and then working with the utilities, and many of them are public utilities, right? And the ADB public sector has a long-term interest. Do you have any plan to expand the venture into public sector somehow?
No, actually, it's not. To a certain extent, we are working very closely with the regional departments in ADB. For example, we worked with SERD for a couple of years about the tourism program, and we last year we worked with SDCC about the COVID. We call COVID lab, so to source the technology for the recovery or to combat COVID. So in terms of the collaboration with the public sector, it's ongoing, and it will sustain for a long time, because this is really the value of ADB can add to the startups.
Now, I was more thinking like, I know that you are not into Central Asia, say a utility in Afghanistan has an idea, a team within. They won't be able to propose through their management saying, let's see if we can apply for ADB startup, because it's directed in a very different way. But if there was a public sector sort of fund equivalent to help to do innovation in a public sector team within a public sector, it could be something interesting.
Yeah, definitely. This is something I would say that we can explore together with public sectors. I would say that in terms of I would say that some really good technologies incubated in, like, say, large corporates or some state-owned enterprises is also very common. To a certain extent, we can see that a lot of quite robust technologies, for example, in Europe, were incubated in large corporates or SOEs or government agencies. So it's just how we give proper incentives and how we structure this kind of investments, and eventually can help those technologies to emerge and being commercialized and scaled up.
This is really, really amazing. I'm just thinking also, even earlier you mentioned your item number 2, that to help ADB build its skills and understanding. So are you allowing ADB staff to sponsor a project so that they can also learn and do something? No, I mean, a team going, you can have a formal mentoring relationship, if you know what I mean. So if somebody is doing a startup on an agriculture specialist, he or she might say, okay, I'm interested to partner. Of course, you have to look at all the Chinese walls that you have to build.
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, I was in a very interesting discussion with a senior management in ADB, and about how to, let's say, encourage ADB staff to take more risk, maybe to do a startup by him or herself, and how to incentivize these people to utilize its know-how, utilize its experience in order to contribute to the market. actually, there were different kinds of ideas. To a certain extent, maybe this is something we should explore in the next stage about, for example, someone in ADB should be able to take non-pay leave to
Yes.
do a startup, and from ADB Ventures perspective, of course, on arm length basis, and we
Mhm.
should be able to invest in these startups, and so because most of ADB staff's experience are really, I would say that relate to impact technology, either on water or on like a clean energy side. But this is just some ideas that we bounce around. Haven't really had any like concrete discussion. But on the other side, yeah, actually, in order to promote innovation, this is like one area so we may explore in the future.
Okay, good. This is fantastic because I think a lot of people with a lot of experience want to take risk, especially after COVID. I speak to many people saying, enough, I just want to do something else. But then at the same time, if that value could be captured, they are not necessarily chasing a dollar. They just want to create a legacy, get an idea. So if people want to apply for these funds, what's the application process? I know you've given a lot of ideas, just if you could spend a bit of time on this.
Yeah, actually, the process is basically they can reach out to us through our portal, and actually we have our own portal, ventures.adb.org, and you can drop business plan, you can drop proposal to us. At the same time, we do give out some email addresses. You can submit application to us. There is no template or format about how to submit your application. To a certain extent, if you look at if you Google, you can find a lot of template how to write for example a pitch deck or whatever. Just give like some information and about your company or about like your proposal, and we do evaluate everything we receive in very short period. And just to give you a number, actually in the past 12 months, actually less than 12 months, we evaluated about 900, like more than 900 proposals. And we based on these 900 proposals, within these 900 proposals, we had let's call preliminary due diligence, first contact with startups or the entrepreneurs. Among these 900, we made about 150 contacts, and had some initial discussions. So to a certain extent, the best way to reach out to us is that try to, I would say that get your proposals in a short format and send to us, and we will get back to you in very short period.
And this can be for either the technical assistance or the VC fund, depending on what stage they are in, right?
That's right. And based on like usually we will think about what's the best assistance to be provided to that startup. And we have already encountered quite several times that the startup came to us for technical assistance, but eventually we decided to work with them on an investment. And some of the startup came to us for an investment, but eventually we gave them a technical assistance. So if you haven't really worked on ADB projects, sometimes it's quite difficult to let's say to understand the difference between these products or between this instrument, and it would be better to leave it to us, and we will think what's the most appropriate to the startup.
So what I understood so far, you will prefer technologies that will have a huge impact. You mentioned $1 billion, something very transformative. And they need to have a team and have a sort of clear vision so that they can sell that idea. And right now you're operating only in South Asia and Southeast.
No, actually, we do look at Central West and the Pacific, and like East Asia as well. It's just like the focus is really South Asia, Southeast Asia, because we see that not like in terms of ADB strategy, in terms of the fund investment strategy we formulated when we set up the fund. So to a certain extent, in terms of the maturity of the ecosystem in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and in terms of the strengths of certain sectors that we would like to focus on, for example, agri-tech, inclusive fintech, we see that those two like sub-regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia, probably will yield the most opportunities, or those markets are most promising to us in the next couple of years.
And then when you are looking at a team composition, of course, you will like to have the entire team that covers the spectrum, right? At least half a dozen people in a team, no?
Not really. I would say that sometimes for a really young startup, you can clearly see that some of the functions are missing. For example, they don't have a finance person, or they don't have a marketing person. That's all fine. We just want to see that, let's say whether you really know what you are doing. Let's say whether you really started this technology by yourself, or whether you have passion to this business, whether you are hungry enough to bring this business forward. So all these other elements we would consider when we assess the team.
Okay, so you have not received any application from any ADB staff yet, no?
No, not yet. Not yet.
No, that's good. Now, thank you, Sherwin. Really, I learned quite a lot, and I'm sure my listeners as well. You want to leave any other comments for people how they that
I would say that actually, I would say that we are new. We are still, let's say, learning by doing almost every day. To a certain extent, we are willing to talk to anyone who is willing to talk to us. And we will try to provide support as much as we can. At the same time, we would like to be educated in terms of where we should go, what we should support. So to a certain extent, I would say that the most important thing I told my team is that we need to be very, let's say, responsive, and try to communicate as much as possible to the market. And at the same time, I would say that we run on commercial basis. We shouldn't forget, like, what's our main mandate to deliver impact, but also at the same time try to support the entrepreneurs to build a successful business. So overall, I would say that we are quite different comparing to the other VCs in the market, but hopefully, this difference eventually can be recognized by the market and can lead to, I would say that not a brand new, but slightly different, like a new space in the market can help, like the DMCs to deliver more impacts.
That's good. Thank you very much, really. And let's keep in touch. I will also want to come back and talk to you maybe in a year's time, saying when you have done a lot more. Thank you. Thank you, Sherwin.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for joining us this week. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our show. Also, leave your comments and review if you enjoyed today's episode. Follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter @ishasni for updates. That's SHASNIE. Once again, this has been Energypreneurs, connecting you to the innovative opportunities in solar power, batteries, and electric vehicles. Stay tuned.